Billy, it's good to see you.
Good to
Thank
see
you for
you.
being here today. And a lot of people have heard your testimony, but there are people watching that haven't heard. And I just want to do a kind of quick thumbnail sketch of what happened to you when you were 9 years old. I think we have a picture of Kathryn Kuhlman.
Okay.
I don't know if you all knew, those of you watching know who she was, but God used her in an amazing way. I mean, amazing. There were so many miracles that happened in some of her services. And so I think we also have a picture of your mother and your grandmother who are important part of this story as well.
There they are.
And there's your mom and there's your grandmother. And so, Billy, just take us back to what happened, the diagnosis you had as a young boy. And thank God you had a prayer.
Had a grandmother.
Miracle believing grandmother.
Yeah. Well, I was diagnosed at 9. It was the summer that I was 9 years old of terminal brain cancer. It had metastasized, which we didn't understand that word then, into the lungs, into the back. I had lumps all over me, and my eyes crossed into my head, paralyzed on one side. I'd given 3 days to live.
What was the first, like when you, before you knew what had happened, were you having these symptoms of
No, they came all at once.
All at once.
I'm out in the front yard with my friends, and everything just went that way, and double vision, just all at once. Taken to the hospital, and I remember the doctor saying, I went to the doctor, he said, get him to the hospital now. So before I knew it, I was scheduled for surgery, did have surgery. I was on the operating table 18 hours.
Wow.
So this was 1962.
Wow.
1962. So medicine, instruments, way primitive compared to today.
Yes.
And so they got in, the cancer was so far spread, it was just all through me. So they had to get in, they did what they could, sewed me back up.
Did they take part of the tumor from you?
They tried to. They didn't want to go too far because they said it was pretzeled, was the word they used. It was pretzeled in throughout the brain. And it was just late stage. Everything was diagnosed late stage. And so I remember the night before I was scheduled for surgery because the Pittsburgh Pirates were playing in Forbes, the old Forbes Field. And I remember listening to that through the window. The lights went out in the room, it was a dark room. And I remember crying out to God, even before I went to Kathryn's place. And I remember grabbing a hold of both sides of the hospital bed. And all I knew, I didn't know that I would be doing this. All I knew is I don't want to die.
Right.
I want to play baseball. I want to.
Sure, be a kid.
We don't always know what's ahead, that prophetic path. And I just screamed as loud as I could, Lord, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And because they had come in, it was morbid. They brought a family together. They prepared everybody. I heard what they were saying. And when I screamed like that, they came running in all over the room, and they brought needles in. Honest to God, those needles looked like they were that long back then. And I was out. Next thing I know, I awakened in an oxygen tent, packed in ice up to my neck. And they couldn't get the fever down. It was really, things were going south real quick. And all I remember is my grandmother came in and pulled the plastic away from the oxygen tent. And she said, don't be afraid. I'm thinking, yeah, right. I said, I could hardly talk, my voice, but the tumor had just taken away my ability to speak. She said, we're getting you out of here. And she said, I'm taking you to see Kathryn Kuhlman. And when she touches you, and to this day, how she knew, out of all those, we couldn't even get in the building. There were thousands of people there. We were out on 6th Avenue. And she was holding my hand on 6th Avenue. The lineup was like up to the front door.
But when did she say that to you?
The night before the surgery.
So she opened the oxygen?
The night after, she opened the tent.
And what did she say? She said, I'm taking you to a Kathryn Kuhlman meeting.
And she will touch you.
And when she touches you, what?
You'll be healed.
You'll be healed.
Yeah. I didn't know how to set a point of contact. Most of us don't. Because we're so afraid of disappointment. Yeah. But she said which later plays a huge role.
Huge.
Because when we navigated up through that crowd, because an usher spotted my grandmother and all these people.
But this is in Pittsburgh?
In Pittsburgh.
Okay, so people don't understand that people would come from all over.
Oh my.
To be in one of her meetings, and they would be lined up outside, and most of people weren't even able to get in.
Couldn't get in.
So you're in a wheelchair.
I was in a wheelchair.
And so you come, and there's lines of people, and what?
Crowds.
Crowds of people. And how did your grandmother get in, other than
we were
on the street
because I said to her I was in so much pain I mean, morphine, nothing would take away the pain. And the double vision, so I had to wear a patch over my eye. And I just said to her, let's go home. I'm in such pain. She said, no, when she touches you. So I mean, it was a God-deposited faith. That's all I can say, and the gift of faith. And all of a sudden, this one usher, who I got to know really well afterwards, Norm Dumhoff and Donnie Abraham, they really became close friends later. But at that stage, he saw her and went like this to my grandmother. And she said, come on, they're calling for you. I said, who do you know here? We can't even see the door. And there we were. A path was made up to this side door, which today that's a red door. When you walk in that door, it's a quick staircase to the balcony. And that's where they took me, up that balcony on the front row.
How did they take you up?
Oh, well, they carried me.
And in the wheelchair?
Yeah, well, they took the wheelchair up. The wheelchair was kept on the ground floor. They carried me up to the balcony. I'm sitting there. And I just began to watch. I was raised CMA, Christian Missionary. I didn't see miracles. I didn't see people being slain. That was all new to me. And so I sat there and I watched her come out. It was just, as you know, very theatrical, very dramatic. I was captured. I was just captured. It was just, you could not have a right heart and not be captured. You felt that, because there was something in that room, we now know presence, right? And
so it was the presence of God.
Oh.
Even at 9 years old, you knew there was something different.
That's in my book coming out soon. It's the day that I knew there was more. The day that I knew there was more. And that day, I thought I couldn't describe it. It was tangible. It was a tangible glory type of thing. Probably what Adam and Eve had in the garden before the garden closed, right? And I was watching. It was really fun watching it. And I saw some things I had never seen. And then all of a sudden, she just spun around. She said, boom, you're being healed of cancer. I thought, wow. So I wouldn't come down because I was afraid. And a lot of people today were afraid. And she said, I said, get down here. And I yelled real loud, no. Well, she sent these two ushers up. Well, they came over to me, and I never forget, they said to my grandmother, Miss Kuhlman wants him. Nobody called her Catherine. I didn't call her Catherine. When I later got to know her, we called her Miss Kuhlman. And they said, Miss Kuhlman wants him. My grandmother said, take him. Thanks a lot.
Of course she did.
Yeah.
And so they actually escorted you down.
They escorted me down to the front.
Could you walk at all at that point?
No, they escorted me down. I was able to walk on one leg, limp on, I dragged the other leg. And they had me in a wheelchair then at the base of the top of the church. Of course, I went down there, she was, and we began to converse. She asked me some questions, what's your name, etc. You know, it was very I was just remember thinking, this is really easy. You know, is this really easy? But then she went to touch me. And I mean, as sure as I'm sitting on this stage with you two today, when that hand, I could see the hand right there, I could hear my grandmother's voice when she touches you. And I tell people today, every crusade that I have, I try to. I didn't have the seed of expectation in me, but my grandmother planted it.
She did.
We can plant expectation in people.
Absolutely.
And when that seed was planted, all I needed was that, and there it was. I'm thinking, I hear her voice, but I see her hand. And when those two came together, I fell. 4 rows fell with me. 4 front rows on the Presbyterian. I'm on a cold marble floor. I'm numb. And there was something radiating through my body. I thought, what is this? Well, she really liked that. And she came over to me and she said, look at this. Look at this. This is young Billy. Look at this. That's what she called me when I was a little young
Billy.
Yeah. And she said, look, and she said, bring him up. And she said, I think you need one more touch. Because it's scared to live in daylight. You know, and she said, yes, you need one more. One more, and boom, there it was. And then she said, if there's anybody in this auditorium that has leukemia or blood disease, or she said, get down here, bring your children down here. Well, then all these people were standing on pews. It was a sight, you know, and I'm laying there and thinking, and so she said, help him up. And when I got up, I didn't even know, and I was able to walk. I had no pain, but I wasn't aware of it. And she said, well, the place was standing and screaming, you know, clapping. Sure. And she said, now, young Billy, get that patch off. I said, no, you don't understand. She said, get that patch off. I said, no, She said, I'll give you a choice. Either you take it off or I'm taking it off. That's what she said. Mm-hmm. I thought, wow, who is this? And where's my grandmother when I did her? So I didn't want to take it off because I was afraid.
Sure.
I wasn't sure of the outcome. So I flipped the patch up, and my eyes were perfect. And I thought, wow. And she said, just walk for us. And I was walking, and it was just that moment, that Kairos moment that he showed up.